The following program contains views that are not those of WVTC, iNetworks Communications, their subsidiaries, affiliates, or financial supporters.
Hey. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to The Truth About the Truth. I'm Apostle Melanie Nunnally, and this is The Truth About the Truth, where I teach on the pathology of deliverance. Today, I'm very excited. I got a very special guest with me. This is Tanara Turner, and I will be introducing him today. We're going to be talking about a very passionate topic of both mine and his. And so I just want to give just a little introduction. I always talk about what The Truth About the Truth tries to focus on, the very nature of the topic of this show, the truth about the truth. There are a lot of false truths that we have grown up learning about, be it in the church, be it in our families, in society, in government. And this show is to really deal with, not only teach people about the truth, teach people how to heal, how to be free, how to stay free. And a very important topic of discussion and problem that we're having in our world, and more aptly in our communities, is what's going on with our youth today. And so today I'm excited to talk about one of my greatest passions is youth. I have a business because of love. Actually, the topic of this show today is because of love. And because of love, what are we going to do for our youth? Amen. And so because of love started out as the title, or the theme of Because of Love is to help change the lives of youth, is to help change the world. I've been a program and service provider for youth when I moved to Atlanta for the Department of Juvenile Justice, Department of Children and Family Services, juvenile court. I've traveled to different schools teaching youth how to heal, how to deal with their pain, making sure that I personally have an impact in the lives of youth to change youth. My belief system with Because of Love is that the reason our youth are getting into so much trouble is because of a lack of love, an infringement upon love in their personal families, and then we abandon them as a community at large. And so I'm very excited today to bring my good friend, Tanara Turner. I'm going to introduce you to him. He is also very passionate about youth. He's spent much of his life being very dedicated to youth programs. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about diversion and recidivism and what those terms mean. And let me tell you something about Tanara Turner. So Tanara Turner is the newly appointed, I believe since December, of Parks and Recreation and Cultural Affairs in the city of South Fulton. That's my city. Amen. A shout out to all of those who are watching us in the city of South Fulton. Shout out to all those who are watching us in the bigger cities, Chicago and Detroit, and all of those who are watching us all over the world. So Tanara Turner is the newly appointed director, and I would like for you guys to hear from him, because he's going to talk about Parks and Rec and the role that Parks and Rec have in our community with our youth. And I know many of you are probably familiar with Parks and Recreation. Somebody somewhere has probably played basketball for Parks and Rec, football, tennis, or something. Maybe you just go to Parks and Rec to play outside. But what is Parks and Rec? You know, talk about, introduce yourself, tell us about the role of Parks and Rec, the functionality of it, and how it ties into our youth. Go ahead, Tanara.
Sure. First of all, I'm excited to be here on The Truth About the Truth. Anytime I have a platform like this that is powerful, and anytime I can talk about youth, I'm excited to do so. So let's talk about Parks and Rec. Of course, I'm the new Director of the City of South Fulton Parks and Rec and Cultural Affairs. I'm excited to be here back. Actually, it's my second stint. I was here a couple of years ago as the rec manager. So now I'm back as the director. So you asked about Parks and Rec.
Right.
Parks and Rec is really about quality of life.
Okay.
That's what it's really about. It also is public safety, economic development as well. And allow me to articulate that and elaborate on that. So when we talk about public safety, we talk about public safety because if I'm not doing what I'm doing and providing engaging programs, then you have kids that are breaking into houses, into cars. So idle mind is the devil's workshop. So my job is to keep those minds at bay, active, engaged in sports, athletic, enrichment programs, after school programs. So anything that I can do to keep youth engaged and out of trouble, we're going to do it. So we have a number of programs that I'm implementing in the city of South Fulton. I'm excited about it. So that's the public safety component. Okay. Now the economic development component. Okay. When you look at when people move into different counties and cities, why do they move into counties and cities? Public safety, education, and quality of life. Well, if you have passive parks for multi-generational parks, if you have programs, quality programs, after school, summer camp programs, it stimulates the economy. So people are going to move into these areas. That's why people move into areas like Cobb, Gwinnett, and Atlanta, because they have these beautiful parks. So that's the economic development. Of course, the quality of life, health and wellness, multi-generational programs, Zumba, line dances, things of that nature. So I always tell people, Parks and Rec is just not playing basketball. Right, it stimulates the economy as well because it's economic development as well as public safety.
That's okay. So let's just back up because I want to make sure that y'all understand what Tenard is really saying. I think that in average, most people, I never had that bigger picture of Parks and Rec. Although me being a youth development specialist, a humanitarian, and an athlete, I'm athletic. I want to be where the youth are. I want to be an influence, but I never looked at Parks and Rec as part of government. First of all, I think most people would agree they never really looked at it like that. So let's go over those again. So just so understand the purpose and function of Parks and Rec. You say we talked about public safety, economic development,
and the quality of life.
Okay, tell me about
keeping kids and residents engaged.
Okay.
Anytime you go out to the local tennis facility, it's ran by Parks and Rec. Okay. Anytime your youth are playing in basketball and football leagues, those functions are ran by quality of Parks and Rec. So that's the quality of life component. Right. Anytime you can get out, health and wellness, even creating artwork, crafts, cultural affairs, things of that nature, all that shapes a community, all that shapes a county or a city. And it's essential, it's vital. I think what happens most of the time when funding get cut, the first thing they cut is Parks and Rec. Well, it's essential because again, economic development, public safety, and quality of life. I'm just as important as the chief of police because again, I'm keeping kids out of trouble by keeping them engaged.
So let's pause right there. Now, here's the real challenge, and this is why he and I relate and our passion. We come together with you. You're just as important as you say as the chief of police. Right? Now, with that being said, truthfully, this is the truth about the truth. Is our Parks and Recs prior to you? Okay. Has Parks and Rec done the responsibility and accountability, playing that role of engaging our youth? It more aptly is the Parks and Rec. Does the Parks and Rec bear a responsibility to minimize, deplete the violence and address the issues and concern of our youth?
So I would tell you that, how can I articulate this? Okay. Because this is the truth about the truth.
Right.
The answer is no. Okay. Not in the city of South Fulton.
Okay.
But what I can tell you is that my passion for youth and youth engagement is overbearing because I'm all about diversion, after school programs, summer camp programs. So now that I'm here, it's my responsibility to take on the challenges of making sure our youth stay safe.
Okay.
Not only our youth, I'm a multi-generational type of guy.
So it's Parks and Rec.
So it's Parks and Rec.
Okay.
It's from age 5 until.
Okay.
So that's until you leave this earth. We provide programs for
Powerful.
85-year-olds, 90-year-olds playing tennis. So anything to keep you moving, keep you engaged, keep you active, keep the mind active,
Right.
I'm willing to do. So in that sense, I would say no, because when you look at Parks and Rec programs, most Parks and Rec programs don't have divergent programs.
Okay. So now we're going to use these words. Okay. So let's put a thumbnail.
Sure.
Diversion.
Yes.
We got two words here, recidivism and diversion, which both of those
Sure.
really work hand in hand. Let me interject here and say this, as I started out telling you guys about Because of Love, which this segment is called Because of Love. My program is called Because of Love. Now, Because of Love, I teach it to adults, and it's multi-generational. Sure. Because healing is multi-generational, exactly. Right? But I started out doing Because of Love with my passion being lowering recidivism.
That's right.
And also my program being offered as a diversion. That's right. To youth going into jail.
Exactly.
So just to tell you about this terminology, if you've never heard it before, recidivism is that revolving door. That's right. The kids come out of jail, they go back in jail. They come out, and then in the state of Georgia, just to give them a little idea about, I was a program service provider for the Department of Juvenile Justice. Mm-hmm. You have what you call RYDCs mm-hmm. and YDCs. RYDCs are regional youth detention facilities, and regional youth detention centers, and YDCs are youth detention centers. And those centers, the RYDCs is where they go temporarily, and then when they are given sentence, sure. That's when they go in the long-term facilities. Exactly. Are the YDCs. Well, Because of Love came in, I would actually go into the RYDC centers, with my curriculum, to keep those youth from, like, you don't need to come back in here. We don't exactly. want you to be sentenced. Exactly. We don't want you. And so now I want you to now talk about how what the diversion is, and how that you're passionate about it, how that ties into Parks and Rec, and how can Parks and Rec, what does Parks and Rec have to do with diversion, and how can it be used?
Sure. So
in defining diversion.
When I look at diversion, like you articulated, it's just diverting you from the system. Mm-hmm. Okay. Going to jail, lowering the recidivism rate, ensuring that when they're incarcerated, they just don't come back. Right. So how do we do that, and why do we do that? Well, how do we do that? We engage them in different programs, extracurricular activities that's going to keep them engaged. Again, I use that phrase, idle mind is the devil's workshop. Mm-hmm. A lot of these kids have nothing to do, mm-hmm. point blank. That's the reason. When you look at our community, such as places like Creel Park okay. in the city of South Fulton, okay. there is some gang activity. And one of the reasons why is because there's no kids out there. It's lack of activity. Gangs tend to go where kids are not, when they can, set up shop, things of that nature. So someone like myself come in and I see that and I observe that, what I need to do, engage them. After school programs, football programs, diversion programs, male mentoring programs like mine called Thinking Out Loud, okay. where we bring individuals like yourself, different commissioner, council people to come in, Chief Meadows, to talk to these youth and inspire them. It's all about inspiring them. The problem with youth have lost hope. When you lose hope equals death. Yeah. So because I'm hopeful. Every day I wake up, I'm hopeful. Right. I'm hopeful that I'll see my son. I'm hopeful that I'll see him grow up. So the problem with youth have lost hope. One of the things that I was introduced to Diversion was with the Atlanta Police Foundation. Okay. They do a fantastic job with their At Promise centers, talking about and promoting diversion programs and the things they do around mental health mm-hmm. and things of that nature. So one of the things that I wanted to do when I left Atlanta Police Foundation, I wanted to bring diversion to the city of South Fulton, because I knew it had never been done before as it relates to Parks and Rec. Because when you look at Parks and Rec, only thing you see is athletics. You don't see the diversion, the male mentoring programs, the female mentoring programs. Absolutely. So creating this platform where we can just touch kids and again,
right in our own community.
Right in our own community.
Rec centers, right in our own, you can go right to the rec.
Right to the rec centers, have these programs. We can shoot pool with them, just foster these relationships. Sure. And one of the things I want to do is my program will also have police officers, foster that relationship between youth and police officers. A lot of times they see blue as the bad guy.
Truth about the truth there. Right?
Exactly.
Because we need to change the truth
narrative
that's out there.
That's right. You want to change the narrative.
Yes.
How do we change the narrative? Well, we foster that relationship. My father was a cop for 30 years, in the city of Atlanta. He was a beat cop for years. One of the things he used to tell me is that prior to him passing, he told me one of the problems is the cops aren't getting out their cars anymore. They're not walking around and staying engaged. They're sitting in their cars looking at Netflix, things of that nature. This is the truth about the truth. So I'm telling the truth.
That's the truth.
And my father was a truth teller. So one of the things he told me, for 12 years, he walked the beat. He got to know the community.
Exactly.
He was Officer Turner, Officer J.L. Turner. There go Officer Turner. So they looked at him as more than just blue. They looked at him as, okay, he's the guy that's helping us out. So cops need to get back out in their car, have more community engagement activities and things of that nature. We need to get more grassroots. These kids are losing hope. I've never in my life seen so many deaths amongst youth over the last 3 years. It's scary. I have a 14-year-old son. So I have a responsibility to him and individuals that he's going to help shape. So my responsibility to him allows me to be impactful in the lives of youth, because I look at my son every day. And that's one of the things I fear. I fear is things gonna rub up on him, because what I do in my house, everybody don't do in their house. So I have to make sure that he stays engaged in extracurricular activities. I'm a hard parent because I was raised by a cop. So those are the things I want to do. Diversion is new to Parks and Rec. Nobody else is doing that. If they're doing it, they're not doing it to the capacity where it's going to be impactful.
Well, let me ask you this. And this segment today is because of love. And, you all know I wear several hats. I am an ordained pastor. I'm an apostle. My business is called Because of Love. And this segment is because of love. How does diversion, because I really believe that what is missing in everything, love is the most powerful. God is love. That what is missing is love.
That's right.
And
That's
how
right.
does diversion, creating diversion programs, how would that exemplify love to our youth? And do you agree? What's your purview on that? Do you think that is the youth are out here being violent and so forth because there is an absence of love? And how does diversion relate to that? And how does Parks and Rec, how are they going to show that to you?
So the loss of hope is the loss of love.
Okay. Yeah. It's
just that simple. When you lose hope, you lose love. You have to, when you look at kids growing up today, single parent homes,
right.
Of course, parents are not paying attention. Parents have to work. Kids are being really raised by the TV or by the iPhone or by the streets. That's a loss of love.
Sure.
I grew up with a lot of love. I grew up hard. You grew up hard. That's why we're here today.
Right. Sure.
So I feel that Parks and Rec plays a vital part in that. Again, you have to be creative. How does that look? How do you shape that? Bringing in subject matter experts to really shape. How does that look? Right. How can we? I'm very serious when it comes to youth.
Yeah, me
because
too.
Again, you have a daughter. I have a 14-year-old son
and a grandson.
And again, I fear the fact that one day I may not see them because of things that are going on today.
Sure.
So my purpose, I have a purpose in life.
Right.
God told me your purpose is to be impactful in the lives of youth.
Okay.
And I serve that purpose every day by ensuring that multi-generational programming is held in the city of South Fulton, and then our
in
youth
Parks and Rec.
In Parks and Rec.
That's in our community.
In our
for
community.
Our community.
Exactly, for our community. So that passion, I will always be driven by people. I'm a people person.
Sure.
Anything that's impactful, anything that's going to keep youth engaged, out of trouble, scholarships, things of that nature, I'm all for.
You use the word impactful.
Sure.
Okay. And what I like about that is, and you just said something here, that traditionally, and you all know this, Parks and Rec, when we think about Parks and Rec, we think about, you can go swim in the pool.
Exactly.
There's a pool there for seniors. You can take some Zumba classes.
Exactly.
The kids can come play basketball. Now those things are important.
Exactly.
Most kids look at Parks and Rec, hey man, let's go shoot some ball, which
Exactly.
I think is good.
It's good.
But the hours are not long enough.
That's true.
Because, and we're going to talk about that,
Sure.
bringing back the midnight basketball.
Sure.
But youth are not thinking about, and
Sure.
our community is not thinking about, that's a place with all this mental health going on today where I can go get some spiritual counseling,
Sure.
some mental health counseling,
Sure.
some mentoring,
Sure.
because that impact is not being made.
Sure.
If Parks and Rec is not being impactful, it's just like you said,
Sure.
offering, you can come play basketball, you can come and
Sure.
do AAU teams, and
Sure.
those programs are not even being done
Sure.
to the full capacity
Sure.
that it should be. But I hear you talking about, and this is what gets me excited as we're doing some things together now, bringing in programs like my program, Because
Sure.
of Love, and others,
Sure.
your program, these other programs, where these kids can say, hey, I don't know how to, like I help students get into college. Everybody knows that about
Sure.
me, career development, career placement. I need to know how to apply to college, how to write a respond to a scholarship letter.
Exactly.
I'm angry, I'm mad,
Exactly.
I'm growing up in foster care. Why are we just depending upon Department of Children and Family Services,
Exactly.
social services? We are social service.
Exactly. Exactly.
And we have slept on that. The truth
Exactly.
is we've slept on that.
Exactly.
And so what do you envision? And you said something else, and I don't want to miss this, because I thank you, Lord, for reminding me. Subject matter experts.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the greatest subject matter experts for what youth need?
So the greatest subject matter experts, in my opinion, are the people that's in the community, like you and I.
And the youth.
And the youth.
And the
I
youth.
mean, so you have to ask the youth, what do they want?
There you go.
One of the things that I'm big on is community engagement. When we have the Parks Advisory Board, that was important to me to set it up, because who knows what their community needs?
Sure.
The community.
Sure.
You always present the truth to the community. This is why we're here. How do we advance? The community has great ideas.
Absolutely.
A number of my ideas come from the community. And remember, we're servants to the community.
Right.
They're taxpayers.
Servants to the community. Yes.
I'm a servant to the community. So a lot of my programs that I create are just based on the needs of the community.
Right.
I'm not doing anything that's a miracle. I'm just asking the community, and I'm asking the youth, what do you want? Right. So I'll give you an example of what I'm saying. So when we talk about diversion, intervention, and prevention, we look at workforce development. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
So one of the things that I'm doing is we're working with an organization called, I think it's Education Music Group.
Okay.
This is a group that comes in and provides music for youth. It shows them how to, what do you have to like to do? They like to rap, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you stimulate them where they are.
That's right.
So
meet them where they are.
You bring them in, and once they start learning how to write, learning how to express themselves on the mic, but then you get into, guess what? What about the engineering?
Sure.
That it's a career path.
Yeah.
What about how to work the cameras? Right. So Education Music Group, they provide youth with an opportunity not to only be in front of the mic, but what happens beyond the mic. Right. So there's careers, there's six-figure careers that I'm partnering with this group to provide for the citizens of South Fulton, for the youth. Most youth like to express themselves.
Oh, yeah. Especially in our community.
Yeah. So you have to meet them where they are.
Absolutely.
And so once I get them engaged, I have them. Right. Now I can say, hey, what about this? The key is to catch them and stimulate them. And once you catch them and pull them in, now you can start creating different avenues to get them where they need to go.
Well, you say something that I keep coming back to the subject matter expert and meeting them where they are. I think a big problem in government has been you get people that are subject matter experts, no disrespect, but government just becomes, the truth is, government that want to govern people. Sure. But they don't hear from the people.
Sure.
And Parks and Rec is for the people.
Sure.
It's for the community.
Sure.
And so one of the things that as I hear you talking about, meeting them where they are, how can I meet them where they are? And this is really not me saying this to you. This is for the sake of this show and those that are watching. how do we, meet them where they are when we haven't sat and met with them?
Sure.
You know what I
Through
mean?
conversation.
Yeah, through conversation.
Exactly.
Just good dialogue.
Open dialogue. That's right. Back and forth.
What do you want? For me, as a pastor, people look at me, I got this flower in my hair, and I'm from Chicago, and I'm definitely all woman and girl, love being it, but I'm an athlete and I love being with you. So I have probably played basketball if I don't know how many parks,
exactly.
In the city of South Fulton, with the guys that smoking the weed, cussing. They call me auntie, they call me reverend, or whatever they call me, but I want to be right there with them. Sure. And I can sit down and have conversations with them. And I think that there's a disconnect because people, it's that adage, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. But sure. How do you show people you care when you just coming in? We got this program, that program, and that program for you. Sure. We even talked about that with the city of South Fulton with the tennis center, right? Sure. Our tenant, we have one of the greatest tennis centers facilities in the nation, right? But it wasn't thriving because no one really reached out to the tennis community to say, what's going on? What do you need? I'd just like to share this anecdotal testimonial, teaching because of love, right? One of the contracts that I had was in Cobb County, at Cobb County Middle School. And they were having a really big problem with the Hispanic youth because, Cobb County is one of the counties that has a lot of, I don't want to say transient people, but it's very not denominational, but interracial, not sure. Interracial, help me, I'm having a brain fall. A lot of different nationalities are there, multicultural. Sure. But there was a large influx of Hispanic people, and even non-speaking English Hispanic people. And so, what was happening at Campbell, and this was in Smyrna, what was happening was that a lot of the Hispanic students were joining gangs, which is what we're talking about. Yes, our kids, we talked about, hey, the kids are joining gangs. And so they started formalizing these gangs in the school. And they said, okay, well, Ms. Nunley, we want you to come in. And I did a pilot program, even though because of love, I've been doing it since 1995, started out doing it in Chicago, but I started a pilot program, a gang initiative program with the Hispanic youth in Cobb County in Smyrna. But what I did was I went in first and I had the group sessions. I told the principal, I said, before I come in here and do this program, I want to sit and meet with the youth. Sure. And, I filmed it and had great discussions. What are the problems that you're having? What's going on? Even long before I used the tenets of because of love to, because it's all about teaching self-love, but I got to be able to identify where is the breach with love.
So what were the issues?
Well, the issues with them was that it was, they were feeling denigrated because they were Hispanic. It was a cultural disconnect. It was a language barrier. And even not just from the students, it was also from a lot of the staff, too, because they had a dialect. And so what the Hispanic students did was they started forming brotherhoods. That's right. They started forming community, to combat and to a synthetic selfhood, a self-esteem. And they felt like, okay, we're being disrespected, so we got to fight. And so I identified that in our group sessions and talking to the youth and, well, what would you like to see? And so I formulated the Because of Love curriculum to meet their needs as Hispanic youth. And I learned a lot. Even learning about, they were all different. There were students that were from El Salvador. There were students that were from Puerto Rico. There were students that were from Mexico. People say, oh, they're from Mexico, but it's the United States of Mexico. A lot of people don't know that, the difference between what a Mexicano is, Mexicans who, were born in the States. So I learned all this. So I said, I told them, I said, a lot of the reasons people mistreat people is because of ignorance. They don't know about your culture. That's true. So help me shape Because of Love so that we can educate even right here in your school, the teachers. And so, because they were talking about even how the teachers were mistreating them. So what we did was we did something where I did a Hispanic history week, right? And so not like we do Black History Month. No. We're really going to, each day had a theme. And what we did was we went into the schools and we went into the class. I engaged the whole school. And it was going to be lessons like, okay, we're going to be a Hispanic history. So that's the social study class, the English class they had to write. We had one day that was, what we eat, our indigenous foods, where we're from. And so we went into the classrooms and they did presentations. So you have these people that everybody at first just thought, oh, they just all Mexicans, or they all like, oh no, I'm from El Salvador. I don't know. Let me tell you about this Spanish hero. Let me tell you about that. Da da da. And so everybody began to look at them differently. Just like in our community, we look at these kids that are smoking weed or that's just hanging around in the park. They ain't trying to do nothing with their lives. They thugs. You don't know their story.
Exactly.
You haven't sat and had a conversation with them, right? You don't know what their needs are. You don't know. You just assuming because they're smoking weed, their pants are sagging, and that maybe they've even committed a crime. Do we denigrate and say it's over for them? So the end of this story, without belaboring, is that they were going and do these presentations. And at the end of presentations, I would have them say, remember, it's always important to celebrate who you are, right? And it built such a selfhood and self-esteem, and even having them going and making the indigenous food. So when we had Hispanic History Week, we made shirts that said, proud to be a Latino. Do you know that every student, the whites, the blacks, everybody was like, Ms. Nunley, how can we get in your class? How can we?
Yeah.
And I followed those students because they were 7th and 8th graders, and I followed them to high school. They went to the Campbell Middle. I went back and interviewed them. I said, how did this help you? They said it helped us to regain our voice. It helped us to have a sense of selfhood. You engaged us. You met us where we were, and you heard our voices. So I didn't just come in as a subject matter expert and say, oh, I'm Melanie Nunley. I've been doing Because of Love. Look, but I don't know this group of people.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I'm saying. So that's how we can be creative, and that's what I hear you saying. Not just, sports program, but very creative programs, and talking, even starting now. Why we gotta have youth conferences at the Georgia World Congress Center? How come we can't have youth conferences right in our Parks and Rec? Go ahead, chime in on that.
That's a great story. So basically, you gave them a platform.
I did.
So that's diversity and inclusion at its finest. That's all that is. You have to be very deliberate when you're talking about being inclusive. We all come from different backgrounds, races, creeds, colors, sexuality. So what you don't want to do is create a biasness. And I think we have a built-in biasness just as humans. We do, whether we articulate it or show it or not. It's embedded in our culture. Yeah. So what happens is you have to get to know people, meet people where they are. People fear what they don't know. So you were very deliberate in your attempts to say, let's get to know, let's see what's kind of going on, giving them a platform. So what they were doing, like you said, they were creating a default mechanism, a community that protected them.
That's right.
And what you did, you went down and broke down these walls and said, and you were very deliberate in nature because you wanted to let people know, listen, these are people too.
Right.
They eat, sleep, and breathe just like you are. Absolutely. You just got to get to know them. So then you provided them with a platform, and now they were able to bridge that gap. Now you created that community. So one of the things that, I talk about, I'm young, but I like the grassroots stuff, creating that community.
Sure. We
got to get back to, it takes a village.
Right.
We got to get back to that, because I can't just raise my 14-year-old son by himself. I need you. I need my wife. I need friends, families. It takes a community. So around 2000, and this is the truth about the truth. I'm going to tell you what happened to the youth. Around 99, 2000, there used to be a time where if you got in trouble, and your neighbor was able to get on you, grab you, fuss at you, say you don't need to do that. Sure. You were scorned because they corrected behavior when they saw the behavior.
Right. In a loving way, though.
In a passionate and loving way.
Not just
because they was invested in you and the community, and they wanted to see you succeed, right?
Right.
But what happened is around 2000, parents started to say, don't talk to my child that way. You can't discipline my child that way.
That
So
did
what
come
happened?
about, yeah.
It broke down the village. So when the village, when you tear down that ability for me to see your child in the store with his pants down and say, hey, young man, put your pants up, and you come in as a parent and get on me when you should be saying, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
See, we lost that around 2000. So here we are 23 years later. So look at the generations over the last 15 years and where they are.
Yeah.
We lost our voice. We lost that community. We lost that village. And that's very vital, because when you look at the individuals that were born in the 70s, the 60s, and the 50s, it took a village. It was a village. They lost the village around 2000. So look at your youth. Look at the youth that are here now, 18, 19, 20, 25. That village is no longer there because the parents strip individuals like you of our voice and the ability to discipline their kids when they come in with different attitudes.
Now, I agree with that.
Yes.
And I don't know if the years are accurate, but I agree. There was some time frame that there was a shift. There was a paradigm shift. But I also agree that those parents did get in a way where they started saying, don't say nothing to my son.
Exactly.
I don't need anybody discipline, this whole attitudinal thing. But I also feel like there was also a disconnect and a spirit of judgment that came across adults and different people, where they started labeling, like there was a rise of alternative schools, or well, this is a bad group of kids. We need to move them out of our schools.
Wow.
Because
that's true.
We need to get these kids out of our school because they're messing up my kid. Now, let me say that. Do I want my child to be able to be in an environment where they can learn? Is it, am I saying to not move some of these kids out of school? No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, they need to be moved, but not just to be moved, but what are you going to do?
What's labeled at that point.
They're labeled and they're left to, these kids don't want to do anything.
Exactly.
Okay. So when you put them in these alternative schools or these alternative programs, again, where's the impact for their lives?
Exactly.
Are they, and so I also feel like people got to a place where even the churches, as a pastor, I feel like churches have failed you. We started doing a lot of fluff. Thank you, Holy Spirit. There was a social media before there was social media.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? We were, let's give a conference.
That's true.
Let's do a youth this, let's do a parade, but it wasn't in there, getting your hands dirty, really, being at that rec center, being there to come on, let's have a youth talk. Hey, let's mentor, let's adopt. I got a lot of friends that don't even have kids.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So, but if there was a platform in place right in our community, because sometimes people want to do it and don't know how to do it.
Sure.
So you, as a new director in the city of South Fulton, a new city, 5 years old, it's such a wonderful place where we can do new things.
Sure.
So I may be this parent out here that's like, okay, man, look at our youth. I want to do something, but I don't have the wherewithal. I don't really know. But if the Parks and Rec started offering, okay, we got this program over here. Each one, I'm just using, each one teach one. Or, now there is a platform set up by the onus of the Parks and Rec. Right? We got to take our community back.
Exactly.
By the implementation of creative programming, by inviting the youth in. I like to work with the worst kids because to me, the baddest kid is the strongest kid, really, right? And so I just think that our society, a spirit of judgment began to rise as well. But I like your vision. I like what you're saying that, Parks and Rec, it's just not enough being done outside and inside. Tell me about what you noticed, the difference. You said I left for a little while, right? And you said I went and I started in, I think it was Newton County. Tell us about that and tell us what you saw, the differences in Newton County and what you were able to do
Sure.
in Newton County, and how parks and recs are able to thrive, and,
Sure.
and what's the difference between what we see in the Gwinnett counties and
Sure.
their parks and rec versus when we come south?
Sure. So that's a great question. So I left, the city of South Fulton is relatively new. It's an infant, it's a baby.
Right.
I do feel like they have great leadership. I think the leadership is probably misunderstood. I think they have leaders who are passionate about their communities. It's very important that the community really understands government, like programs like Government 101, creating podcasts where you're bringing government into the houses of citizens, because truly, I don't think citizens really understand the nuances of government and what elected officials have to deal with. You have very strong leaders, Councilwoman Helen Willis, Councilman Corey Reeves, Councilman Gomes, Dr. Rao. You have strong leaders in city government in the city of South Fulton. But a lot of times I think citizens don't understand the nuances of their job. They're really policymakers. So in order to create policy, that sometimes it's a difficult situation. You can't please everybody. I left because there was some barriers in Parks and Rec. There were programs like diversion, intervention, and prevention that I wanted to put in place. Sure. But there were certain individuals that we didn't share the same philosophy.
Right. Well, not to mention those individuals.
Sure.
But what's the gap? Why would the Parks and Rec want to have programs that are intervention and prevention?
I think sometimes we can get in our own way. I'm very progressive. A lot of Parks and Rec directors, they kind of stick to the same formula. Again, I'm about impact. I'm about generationals, meeting people where they are, and you have to pivot. Life is about pivoting. You can't continue to do the same things, the same times, the same time of the year. So I think a lot of times I'm not retired in place.
Okay.
My wife called it retire in place. Maybe another 30 years from now, I'll be retired in place. I think a lot of leaders are retired in place. I'm always looking for the next impactful thing. So it was just a difference in philosophy. When I went up to Newton County, it was governed by a rec commission, what was a 12-panel board. They allowed me to be artistic. They gave me a blank canvas. They allowed me to paint. And when I painted, they allowed me to paint and be expressive, and they were supportive. So we were able to be.
They allowed you to have a vision.
They allowed me, and they gave me a platform, but they allowed me to grow and express myself. And it was professional development at its finest, because they gave me a platform and a name that I wasn't able to get in South Fulton. So through that platform, we did beautiful things: dog parks, splash pads, skate parks, cardio fitness studio programs. We were able to do such amazing things in less than 14 months because they gave me a blank canvas and just allowed me to paint.
Well, why hasn't that, and truthfully, why doesn't that happen in our community? Why, there's some systemic stuff here, right? Even mentally, emotionally, and spiritually for the Black community. Less than 14 months. And we oftentimes looking at our community, we're still spending we can't get a tennis center up. We can't get this. And we've got beautiful, South Fulton has some of the most undeveloped land.
Without a doubt.
Okay. We've got green space to depth. We ought to be developing our baseball program, turf fields. We need to be developing our tennis program. Those are the highest paid sports, right? So why? What's the barrier in our community? And do you foresee that as even still running into a barrier?
It's vision and leadership. Listen, the mayor likes to say South Fulton is Wakanda. It really is. It's a hidden jewel that nobody really. I agree with that. It's a beautiful place to live, raise your family, but it has so much potential. But a lot of times we get in our own way.
But why though?
You know what?
What's the truth? Come on now, let's not be euphemistic here.
This what happens is people get leadership roles. People start to, instead of looking, they start looking at their title and stop looking at the impact. Once you start looking at you focus on the title and stop focusing on the impact, it's a lack of impact, if that makes any sense.
You know what?
So
Yeah,
you don't get caught up in who's the city manager, who's the county manager, who's the county attorney. It's all, listen, it's quality of life. At the end of the day, we're there to service the people. We're there to meet the people where they are. You just made a relevant point about 30 minutes ago about, do they get out and talk to the citizens? Right. One of the first things I did when I came to the city of South Fulton, and I did it in Newton County, is I have directors night in. They give citizens a platform. They can come in and talk to me one-on-one, because a lot of citizens don't want to use an open platform of engagement. Right. They want to sit down with you, have a cup of coffee, have some water. So
like, we don't always got to go to a council meeting.
Let's have some exchange of some open dialogue.
Let's drink over some coffee. Let's talk over coffee.
Because I like to break bread with people.
Yes.
I feel you out. You feel my energy. And some of my best ideas came from citizens. So you have to open up your door and say, what would you like? And it was just a blessing that, you know, that Newton County gave me that platform. But it taught me, again, you meet people where they are. You be visible. By being visible, you're being accountable. And accountability is just being visible, just asking the citizens what they want, opening the door, and don't get caught up in titles, get caught up in impact, if that makes any sense.
No, I agree with you, and as you were talking, I was just really thinking about how it's so important that there needs to be a meeting of minds, if you will, to gather in Black men really taking accountability and responsibility to love on these youth.
That's right.
To do a gang of sorts. Let's create a love gang, if you will. Because see, my thing is that love.
I like that name, by the way.
Love gang.
I love that name. I'm gonna take that.
Okay, hey.
I love gang. I like that.
It's all fresh from the kingdom.
Sure.
Love is something that it extends beyond the very utterance of the word. Love has power. And so, in other words, what I'm saying is that even if I don't say I love you, and this is one of the things that I teach as a love culture professional, right? How do you emulate love in your culture, being business, Parks and Rec? Even if I'm not saying love, how do I permeate love? How do I manifest love in the culture, right? And that's something that our boys need, our young men need, that we need to create love gangs, a love culture where we got to galvanize the men. And in South Fulton, it's a lot of second and a lot of people that have 2 and 3 post degrees. You know what I'm saying? College degrees and so on and so forth. So we've got to love on our men and get them into the Parks and Rec. I mean, it's amazing that there's not enough partnership. You're really expanding as we're talking about this, you guys, today. And I need you all who are watching, get with Parks and Rec. We're not utilizing the facilities. We need to partner with the United Ways. We need to partner with churches. We need to, as you said, partner with the police department. We need to partner with the social service agencies.
That's right.
There are a lot of entrepreneurs in this area, in this city of Atlanta, period. We need to partner. Who's that person out there that's doing like myself?
Exactly.
Who's doing youth development?
Exactly.
Let's get in here. Let's galvanize. Let's garner our assets.
That's right.
I'm a graduate of Tuskegee. Booker T. Washington said, there's the big Booker T and the W.E.B. Du Bois debate. W.E.B. was like, hey, the talented 10, we can be doctors, lawyers. Booker T's like, hey, I'm not against that, but I'm saying we just came out of slavery. What do we already have? Harness our assets, and I think a lot of times we're trying to do stuff so big.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? That it's like, look, we got assets right here. Hey, what you got? What you bring to the table?
Exactly.
Let's galvanize the assets that's around us. Let's galvanize them and bring them into Parks and Rec. There are all kind of things. I see churches doing prayer breakfasts, prayer vigils. I see, people doing career fairs. Pop-up shops are popular now. Let's see the youth businesses that they're doing. We need to start doing this, like in my areas, Welcome All Park.
Sure.
And Welcome All is one of the bigger parks and rec. So
Sure.
how do you, see doing that? And do you think that I see Black men are just not as present a lot of time? I'm speaking truth.
Sure.
A lot of the programs that are being ran, that a lot of the programs, the mentoring, there are more mentoring programs and more people helping our youth that are females than
Sure.
males. Why is that?
So I think it's systemic. The truth about the truth, I don't know what it looks or feels like not to have a father. I always had a father in my life.
Right.
My father was visible and present.
Right.
I don't know what that looks like. He popped up anywhere.
Right.
So my father was always there. He was fathers to a lot of my friends.
Sure.
So I saw the impact that he had on my life as well as my friends, a lot of my family members. So I don't know what that
encapsulate.
I don't know what that looks like, but what I can tell you is this, and I'm glad you brought this subject up about men. Men are hurting in our community. Yeah. So one of the things that I tell my son as a Black man and as a man, we're taught to be aggressive. Mm-hmm. We're taught to that's why men have so many mental health issues. I battled with that in my life as a result of my father passing. Mm-hmm. I had some mental health issues. Sure. It's a real
diverse.
Thing. And diverse.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have any shape, color, or form. It can affect any of us through loss of life, loss of marriage, anything. So one of the things that I do,
men are taught not to.
But we're taught not to. So where does it start? It starts with me. It starts with me teaching my son it's okay to cry. My son asked me, he said, "Dad, are you okay?" When his grandfather.
I like that title. I'm sorry. It's okay to cry.
It's okay to cry. I got to take that one too. That's the second one.
Right.
And it's okay to cry.
Right.
It's okay to have these emotions. It's okay to say that I can't take anymore. I think it's very important when you're a father to not only articulate, but show that you can be expressive. Men are dying at a young age because they're harnessing this aggression or this fear. Or I tell my wife when I'm nervous. Right. I tell her when I'm scared. I want her to know why I'm doing what I'm doing. Sure. It's very important that her and my son understands that Daddy is nervous. Dad is a little bit fearful, or Dad is excited, because I want him to. It's not really about him. It's about his kids. Whatever I put on him, he's going to show that same love and care to his son and to his daughter. So we have to be expressive.
But how do we get that? Okay. I agree. And this is powerful just to even hear a Black man, saying this. Men are hurting.
Sure.
How do we get you being a director of Parks and Rec? What's the vision? How do we get this into our Parks and Rec? What a great place to come, because not only do men not get counseling and so on and so forth, and particularly in our community, when they think of getting it, they're like, I can't afford it.
Sure.
It's too expensive. I just talking to a friend of mine the other day who happens to be a brother, and I reached out and I said, hey, I'm looking to see you, come see me, and in my mind, I'm already going to start out with some free counseling
sure.
or whatever. Talk about that at Parks and Rec and that the fee scales, and people don't realize that, part of Parks and Rec is being able to provide, and let's provide some counseling. Mental health is prevalent right now, right? And we should be able to provide programming where our men, our teenagers can go and get help.
Sure.
Counseling, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, right in our Parks and Rec. So
sure.
And I think people think that it's because they think it's unaffordable.
Sure.
So tell us about the pricing scales of Parks and Rec, and the intent is that it's supposed to be a place people can go because the taxpayer.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, always when I talk about Parks and Rec and I talk about fees, one of the things that I always try to articulate to the higher ups. So when I say the higher ups, I mean city managers, county managers. when you talk about quality of life, it's not revenue driven, it's impact driven, it's service driven. So your standard Parks and Rec department, it's not set up to generate money. Now, there are creative ways where you can generate funds, but most of the times when you charge a minimum cost for equipment, it's like an enterprise fund. It's money in, money out. You're paying for referees, you're paying for the maintaining facilities. So it's not a setup where you're going to make tons of money. Now, it's my job to bring creative streams of revenue in, and we can do that. But mostly, I get caught up in how can we be impactful and how can we expand our service deliverables to include non-traditional programs. Programs like diversion programs and mental health programs are non-traditional. They're not doing that. So how can we do that? You just said it. Bring in individuals such as yourself. We don't
on a consistent basis. It's not random.
It's not random. Partnership, MOUs, things of that nature. Bringing in people on agreements to say, listen, you're gonna provide this class for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years. Bringing in pilot programs. Don't be afraid to fail. Because so you bring in partnerships and you bring in these subject matter experts, and you allow people who know how to do the sports to do the sports. You allow people who know how to do the counseling to do the counseling. And what happens now when you look at it, you have a gumbo. Now you're servicing the community from it's multi-generational from A to Z. So you ask me, how do you do that? It's a village. You create a village. So my job in the city of South Fulton is to create a village. All kids don't play sports. What am I going to do for them? That's that diversion and inclusion. What am I going to do for them? Okay, what about esports? A lot of kids play games. What about esports? What about a book club?
Don't have too many of those esports, and I want to get on.
So what I'm saying is this: that inclusion. You got to be very deliberate, and I think most Parks and Rec departments aren't deliberate in terms of expanding when you're talking about non-traditional programming.
Okay, before we got about 5 or 6 minutes here. First of all, before we go, and I want to, say some things. You all, if you're listening and you live in the city of South Fulton, Tanara Turner is the truth about the truth. And he's really, everything he's saying is about being impactful. And so Parks and Rec is going to change. We're going to, change the paradigm, make it a very, a presence in our community for mental health, for programming from for youth, career, arts, everything, raising up, giving the attention back to our baseball programs, tennis programs, stuff that we've overlooked. It's just not about basketball and football, but also enhancing those programs so that, because these things pay for college, having our AAU softball program, bringing more programs for girls. Okay. So I really want you to tell them really quick about the city of South Fulton, the Parks and Rec that you're over, that comes under the city of South Fulton. What are those names really quick before we get offline?
So we currently have Sandtown Park is actually one of those facilities. It's actually a class 3 facilities. And when I talk about class, we talk about square footage. So Sandtown Park, we have Welcome All Park, which is a class 4, which has a natatorium. We have Burdette Park, which is a class 3. So those are our main 3 recreation centers where you can come in and play basketball and things of that nature.
And keep rolling them off. What are the other
we also have Creel Park. Creel Park is a class 2 facilities. We do have the South Fulton Tennis Center, of course, is one of the best tennis centers in the state. We do have another Burdette Tennis Center, which is another tennis center. The Art Center, which is absolutely amazing. On New Hope Road, we do a lot of plays, cultural events and things of that nature there. We have 17 parks in the city of South Fulton. Some of our parks need to be updated, and that's part of my responsibility, that's ensuring that you get that quality of life and that preventive maintenance to ensure that the parks are kept up to par for our citizens to enjoy.
Amen. Listen, we're going to see Tenard again. We're going to talk more about this. We're about to bring life back to our Parks and Rec. It's multi-generational. And we're going to start doing things not outside of our community, but inside of our community, utilizing the facilities that the taxpayers are paying for, but also bringing the love back to our community by providing programs that are for our youth, speak to the issues of our youth, because we want to divert them from lives of crime in jail. And by doing that, it's about love. And we show people we love them by being in their presence and doing programs that meet them where they are. And so I thank y'all today for joining me. I know my time is out. Listen, this has been The Truth About the Truth. I'm Apostle Melanie Nunnally. If this program has been a blessing to you, please, it's been coming up on where you can sow into this program, into this show. Topics will continue where we're talking about healing, where we're talking about men, and we're going to have Tanard back to talk about some other things. Amen. It's about impact, and it's time for us to make an impact the truthful way. That's really getting into the grassroots and getting back to what's most important, loving people. And we show people we love them by what we do and what we do for them to meet them where their needs are. Listen, God bless y'all. I'll see y'all next Thursday. This has been The Truth About the Truth, where I teach about the pathology of deliverance, teach you how to stay free, how to be free, and so that your life can be changed in Jesus' name. I love y'all, and God bless y'all.
Views made on the preceding program are not those of WVTC Radio, iNetworks Communications, or their financial supporters.
Winning victory through Christ, WVTC Allsip Chicago, an iNetworks communication station.